A very good afternoon to you and welcome to the World News, reaching you live from our studios at Souq News Television. I'm Oyin Priya Krumale. Let's begin with today's top stories. The federal government of Nigeria has endorsed a new medium-term national development plan covering 2026 to 2030 to be launched in December 2025. Now, Group Chief Executive Officer NNPCL Bayo Ojulari has said that restoring Nigeria's refineries has proven difficult due to decades of neglect. And South Africa establishes a G20 task force to address global wealth inequality, marking the first of such initiative under the group. In Europe, Germany's unemployment has climbed above 3 million for the first time in a decade, reflecting the country's persistent economic struggles. And in the world of sports, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum meets FIFA's Gianni Infantino to review preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Many thanks for joining us. Now, the federal government has endorsed a new medium-term national development plan covering 2026 to 2030, which will be launched in December 2025. The initiative replacing the 2021-2025 plan will involve all tiers of government and aims to address the shortcomings of the previous framework that fell short of its 7% growth target due to delayed reforms. Key reforms such as fuel subsidy removal, foreign exchange market liberalization, and tax restructuring only took effect in 2023, sparking stronger economic response and improved revenues. Building on these measures, the new plan will prioritize policy continuity, job creation, infrastructure investment, human capital development, food security, and social protection. The government officials highlighted that the plan will serve as a bridge to Nigeria's long-term Agenda 2050. Its preparation begins this month through a participatory process that includes contributions from the private sector, civil society organizations, and traditional institutions. Now, the federal government has approved a new increase in the cost of obtaining Nigerian passports, which will take effect from Sunday, September 1st, 2025. The Nigerian Immigration Service announced that the 32-page passport with 5-year validity will now cost 100,000 naira, while the 64-page passport with 10-year validity will cost 200,000 naira. The new adjustment applies only to applications made within Nigeria, with fees for Nigerians abroad remaining at $150 and $230 respectively. According to the Immigration Service, the upward review became necessary to sustaining the quality, security features, and global integrity of the Nigerian passport while keeping it accessible to citizens. The agency stressed that the revision aligns with the international standards for biometric travel documents and will help fund improvements in passport issuance and production. This is the second increase in just over a year following the August 2024 adjustment, when the 5-year passport rose from 35,000 naira to 50,000 naira and the 10-year passport increased from 70,000 naira to 100,000 naira. Moving on, Dangote Cement PLC has renewed its collaboration with the Nigerian Police Force to bolster security, safeguard business operations, and promote economic stability. The partnership focuses on protecting communities and ensuring a safer environment for investment and sustainable growth. The company highlighted that security is central to its operations, stressing that production and prosperity cannot thrive without peace. It called for stronger cooperations in intelligence sharing, empowering local police divisions, and fostering trust among host communities. The initiative aligns with the federal government's mission to grow the economy, create jobs, and boost national development. The collaboration, which began in 2018, has seen Dangote Cement provide significant support to the police, including the donation of 175 operational vehicles to enhance security capacity. The Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Bayo Ojulari, has revealed that restoring Nigeria's refineries has proven difficult due to decades of neglect. Speaking on Thursday during a meeting with the national leadership of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria at the NNPCL Towers in Abuja, Ojulari likened the situation to reviving an old car that had been abandoned without maintenance. He noted that despite significant investment in Warri, Port Harcourt and Kaduna refineries, progress remains slow. According to him, the extent of the damage caused by years of inactivity continues to hinder efforts, as fixing one part of the plant often reveals deeper structural problems in other areas. Ojulari also disclosed that NNPCL is facing opposition from individuals who he said do not have the country's best interest at heart and are working against the company's ongoing transformation efforts. He reiterated NNPCL's commitment to overcoming the setbacks and reviving Nigeria's refining capacity. The Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative has commended the injection of over $6 billion in foreign direct investments into Nigeria's deep water and gas sectors, describing it as a major milestone for the country's energy landscape. The agency said that the influx of funds reflects renewed investor confidence driven by recent reforms in oil and gas industry. Key projects include the $550 million You Better Gas project, expected to deliver 350 million standard cubic feet per day by 2027. The $5 billion Bonga North Deep Water project, which will unlock 300 million barrels of reserves and add 110,000 barrels per day to Nigeria's production capacity, and Total Energy's $510 million divestment of 12.5% stake in OML 118 to Shell. NITI's Executive Secretary, Orji Ogbonnaya Orji, made the remarks during a courtesy visit to NNPCL's Group CEO, Bayo Ojulari, in the FCT. He credited President Bola Tinubu's administration, particularly NNPCL's leadership, for reversing over 15 years of stagnation in energy investments. The Nigerian campaign for a seat on the International Maritime Organization Council received a significant boost as Switzerland formally endorsed the country's bid for the Category C's seat for the 2026-2027 biennium. The endorsement was delivered in Abuja during a courtesy visit by Switzerland ambassador to Nigeria, Patrick Felix Egloff. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, received a letter of support and described Switzerland's backing as a significant step forward in Nigeria's campaign. He noted that endorsement underscores Nigeria's growing reputation and influence in global maritime affairs, particularly in promoting safety, security, and sustainability across maritime operations. The International Maritime Organization Council elections are scheduled to take place between October and November 2025. Nigeria's renewed push for a seat aligns with the broader strategy to strengthen international maritime partnership and advances its blue economy agenda. The Swiss endorsement is expected to enhance Nigeria's visibility and support among IMO members states ahead of the elections. Now, the Director General of the National Council on Climate Change, Barrister Teni Majekodunmi, has called for increased domestic and international financing to bridge the funding gap in Nigeria's National Determined Contribution 3.0. Speaking at a validation workshop in Abuja, she emphasized that the enhanced climate finance is critical for achieving the nation's emission reduction targets and building resilience against the impact of climate change. Majekodunmi identified several key mechanisms for mobilizing funds, including the Green Climate Fund, Adaptation Fund, bilateral and multilateral climate finance arrangements, and public-private partnership. She also advocated for innovative tools such as green bonds and blended finance instruments to scale up funding for both mitigation and adaptation projects across the country. The workshop themed Driving Ambition, Strengthening Action and Aligning with the Paris Agreement and Global Stocktake was aimed at finalizing Nigeria's nationally determined Contribution 3.0. It gathered stakeholders from various sectors to align national climate strategies with international communities and discuss pathways to unlock sustainable financing for implementation. You're still watching the world news at Souk News Television. We're going to break. We'll be back in a moment. Do stay with us.
Wole Soyinka, born Akiwande Oluwole Babatunde Soyinka on July 13, 1934, in Abeokuta, Ogun State, southwest Nigeria, stands as one of Africa's most celebrated literary figures and a global icon of resistance against oppression. His life and works reflect an unwavering commitment to justice, culture, and the transformative power of arts. Soyinka was born into a Yoruba family in colonial Nigeria, an environment that exposed him to both traditional African culture and Western education. His father, Samuel Ayodele Soyinka, was a school headmaster, while his mother, Grace Eniola Soyinka, was a devoted Anglican. This blend of indigenous and colonial influences deeply shaped Soyinka's world. Soyinka attended Government College Ibadan and later proceeded to the University College Ibadan, where he studied English and literature. Soyinka completed his education at the University of Leeds in England, earning a degree in English and later a doctorate degree. In the late 1950s, Soyinka began working as a dramaturgist at the Royal Court Theatre in London. However, his passion for storytelling and cultural preservation drew him back to Nigeria, where he founded two theatre groups known as the 1960 Masque and the Orisun Theatre Company. Soyinka's works, often a fusion of Western dramatic techniques and African themes, address universal issues of justice, freedom, and human dignity. His early play, titled A Dance of the Forest, which was introduced in 1960, written to celebrate Nigeria's independence, critically examined the nation's socio-political trajectory, setting the tone for his career as both artist and activist. Soyinka's activism became more visible during Nigeria's post-independence years. In 1967, during the Nigerian Civil War, he called for a ceasefire between federal forces and Biafran separatists. This led to his arrest by the military government, and he spent 22 months in prison, where he wrote a short drama titled The Man Died, Prison Notes, a harrowing account of his imprisonment and a profound critique of authoritarianism. Soyinka has authored more than 20 works, including plays, novels, poetry, and essays. In 1986, Soyinka became the first African to win the Nobel Prize of Literature, an achievement that brought global recognition to African literature. Soyinka remained an outspoken critic of oppressive regimes, often at great personal risk. His activism extended beyond Nigeria, addressing global issues of injustice and human rights. During periods of military rule in Nigeria, he went into exile, continuing to write and speak against tyranny. Today, Soyinka is celebrated not only as a literary giant, but also as a symbol of resilience and moral courage.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the news. Now, moving on, South Africa is set to establish a G20 task force to address the world health inequality. World Wealth Inequality, marking the first such initiative under the group. The 6-member panel will study how widening income gaps affect growth, poverty, and the international cooperation, with findings to be presented at the G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg this November. The initiative forms part of South Africa's G20 presidency agenda, which highlights the struggles of poorer nations, including rising debts, food and energy price pressures, and trade disruptions. The government noted that growing disparities threaten long-term prosperity and global stability, citing recent challenges such as unequal vaccine access and supply chain shocks. According to the World Inequality Report, the poorest half of the world owned just 2% of the global wealth in 2021, while the richest 10% controlled 76%. The task force aims to transform public concerns over inequality into actionable policy measures that G20 nations can adopt to create a more balanced and inclusive economic system. Now, Zambia's stock market has become the world's best performer in August as a copper boom drives record gains. The Lusaka Securities Exchange All-Share Index jumped by 14.3% in 1 month, fueled by rising investor confidence in the country's resource-driven economy. The index is also the world's top performer in 2025 so far, with nearly 56% growth in local currency terms and a striking 84% rise when measured in dollars. This momentum places Zambia ahead of the most global peers, with only Ghana showing comparable strength. Analysts point to the country's expanding copper exports as the main driver of the growth, helping attract both local and foreign investors. The sustained rally underscores the central role of natural resources in boosting Zambia's financial market and economic outlook. Now, Egypt has increased its natural gas production by 60 million cubic feet per day after bringing the 2 new wells online in the deepwater West Delta field. The Ministry of Petroleum said that the Sapphire South Central Deep well is contributing 50 million cubic feet daily, while the Sakra D4 well, restored after years offline, is producing 10 million cubic feet. The expansion comes as the country faces declining output from aging fields and rising domestic demand. Data shows that Egypt's total gas production in May was more than 40% lower than in March 2021. Pushing the government to combine fresh exploration with new partnerships. Once a regional exporter, Egypt now relies on imports to cover supply gaps. Authorities are also driving and drilling 3 additional wells at the Zohr gas field in the Mediterranean Sea to stabilize output, with 1 well already adding 65 million cubic feet daily to supply. Earlier this month, Egypt signed a $35 million gas import deal with Israel's Leviathan partners, underscoring its dual strategy to boosting domestic production while securing long-term import sources. Now, Asian market gained on Friday, lifted by a technology-driven rally on Wall Street as investors turned their attention to key United States inflation data expected later in the day. The MSCI Asia Pacific Index edged higher, supported by strength in blue-chip Chinese shares and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index, though Japan's Nikkei slipped slightly. Analysts noted that earnings momentum from major technology firms remains strong, keeping investor sentiment upbeat despite mixed signals in broader markets in China. However, technology shares showed volatility after Cambricon Technologies issued a risk alert following a sharp surge in the stock price. The Star 50 index fell by 3% after a recent rally, but overall sentiment remained positive, with the CSI 300 index advancing. Market strategists explain that such fluctuations reflect natural corrections as investors adjust expectations in fast-growing sectors like artificial intelligence and semiconductors. Now, global focus has now shifted to the release of the United States Personal Consumption Expenditure Price Index. The Federal Reserve preferred inflation measure traders are increasingly pricing in an interest rate cut as early as September, which could support further equity gains across Asia. The expectation of lower borrowing costs is also pushing the dollar lower, while commodities like oil and gold remain under pressure. Now, North Korea's economy expanded by 3.7% in 2024, marking its fastest annual growth since 2016, according to a new estimate from the South Korea's central bank. The rebound was driven by stronger manufacturing, construction, and mining, supported by deeper economic cooperation with Russia. The heavy chemical sector surged by 10.7%, boosted by increased production of materials for weapons exported to Moscow. The Bank of Korea noted that Russia's war in Ukraine accelerated Pyongyang's military-industrial activity, while domestic policy projects further strengthen industrial output. The mining sector also grew by 8.8%, the largest increase in more than 2 decades. Despite this rebound, trade volume remained below pre-pandemic levels, though exports rose by 10.8% to $360 million, led by unconventional goods such as wigs and watches. Nominal gross domestic national income, was estimated at just $1,239 per person, equivalent to 3.4% of South Korea's per capita income. North Korea does not publish official economic data, leaving the South's central bank as the most reliable external source. The leader, Kim Jong-un, is set to deepen this further with upcoming diplomatic engagements in China and Russia, underscoring Pyongyang's strategic economic alignment. The United States dollar is on track for a 2% monthly drop in August as investors brace for a possible interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve next month. The market sentiment has been dampened by political pressures on the central bank, with President Donald Trump attempting to dismiss Fed Governor Lisa Cook, who has responded to a lawsuit challenging its authority. Analysts warn that any perception of weakened Fed independence could fuel inflation expectations and push long-term yields higher. Despite stronger than expected second quarter economic growth, traders are focusing on the Fed's referring inflation gauge, the PCE pricing index, due later on Friday, as well as next week's labor market report. The market pricing now reflects an 86% chance of a September rate cut, up sharply from 63% a month earlier, and with expectations of over 100 basis points of easing by mid-2026. Now, Fed Governor Christopher Waller has already signaled support for an early reduction to bring rates closer to neutral. Now, the currency movements have been mixed, with the euro and sterling heading for month gains against the dollar, while China's yuan has surged to its strongest level in 10 months. The dollar index, which measures the greenback against the 6 major peers, is on course for a 10% yearly decline as political uncertainty and shifting monetary policy continue to weigh on investors' confidence. It's still the world news at Souq News Television. We're going to break. I'll be back in a moment. Do stay with us.
Hello Nigeria, hello Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Boggaballs, and please keep watching Souq News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East. Souq News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching Souq News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I mean? I say Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
Welcome to the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC. ADSC is an organization focused on training and research to advance sustainable development and growth in Africa. We exist to facilitate customized training, research, and study exchanges worldwide on leadership, management, and critical development issues. The center offers a platform for the exchange of ideas and best practices. Our comprehensive services encompass research, consultancy, capacity building, training, and education programs, as well as publishing and disseminating development-related knowledge. Our faculty consists of experts and researchers with extensive experience in policy formulation, implementation techniques, and monitoring and evaluation. Our methodology involves talks, individual and group exercises, games, video screenings, and discussion seminar sessions in a cozy atmosphere, making learning enjoyable for our participants. For more information, email us at info@adstudiescenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit our website at www.adstudiecenter.com to learn more about our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
When you visit Lagos for the first time and Google fun or recreational places in the city, at the top of that list will be Freedom Park. Located in Lagos Island on Broad Street, Freedom Park over the years has become home to the Nigerian arts and the culture at large. From annual big shows like the Lagos Theatre Festival, Celebration at the Lagos Poetry Festival, to local festivals that celebrate literature, music and arts. Freedom Park is one of the most visited recreational sites in Lagos, for both local and tourist people alike. A place to mingle, unwind, or simply just have fun. Freedom Park, however, hasn't always been a place of fun and games. It has a history that dates to 1861, when Lagos was made a British colony. In 1885, Freedom Park was built as a fortified prison from imported bricks. It was referred to as Her Majesty's Broad Street Prison. Some prominent political prisoners were held in the prison, people such as Herbert Macaulay, Michael Imodu, and Obafemi Awolowo. In 1979, Her Majesty's Broad Street Prison was destroyed, reduced to a dumping ground. It was later rebuilt in the 1990s, celebrated in 2010, Nigeria's 50th Independence Day. Freedom Park still holds a bit of its history within its walls. In the museum, where there are pictures and artifacts. Some of the old prison facilities have been converted into leisure facilities that people visit and enjoy today.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, it's the World News Live on Souk News Television. Moving on, Germany's unemployment has climbed above 3 million for the first time in a decade, reflecting the country's persistent economic struggles. Figures from the Labour Office showed 3.02 million people out of work in August, an increase of 446,000 compared to July. The seasonally adjusted joblessness rate, however, remained unchanged at 6.3%. Weak consumer demand and global trade tensions continue to weigh heavily on the German economy. Retail sales fell by 1.5% in July, while import prices dropped to 1.4%, signaling weaker purchasing power and reduced inflationary pressures. Economists warn that the government investment programs, including a 500 billion euros infrastructure fund, may take years before showing meaningful results. Business associations argue that Germany's labor challenges stem not only from cyclical weakness, but also from deep-rooted structural issues, with job vacancies shrinking by 68,000 compared to last year's. Pressure is mounting on policymakers to accelerate reforms that can revive growth and restore long-term competitiveness in Europe's largest economy. Now, the United States has for the first time declined to send any uniformed military or government representatives to a major regional security conference in Japan, raising questions among allies about Washington's long-term commitment to Asian defense cooperation. The Pacific Future Forum, hosted by the United Kingdom, is being held aboard the aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales in Tokyo Bay. The two-day meeting brings together senior defense ministers and military officials from Japan, the United Kingdom, and other Western partners to discuss regional security challenges. While allies used the event to showcase a deeper defense coordination, the absence of an American delegation marked a significant departure from the past practices. Observers said that the decision may heighten uncertainty about U.S. engagement in Asia at a time when regional powers are seeking stronger security ties. Still in the United States, the country has ended its long-standing tariff exemption for low-value packages under $800, disrupting global e-commerce supply chains. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection will now collect duties on all parcels, regardless of value, country of origin, or shipping method. A temporary flat duty of $80 to $200 per package will apply for 6 months before full valuation-based tariffs take effect in 2026. The policy change is expected to raise prices for online shoppers and increase costs for small businesses that rely on cross-border marketplaces. Many postal services in Europe and Asia have already suspended or restricted shipments to the United States, citing difficulties in processing the new fees and paperwork. Delivery companies such as DHL, FedEx, and UPS are adjusting operations to handle higher duty collections. U.S. industry groups have also welcomed the measure as a win for domestic manufacturers, particularly in textiles, where foreign firms had previously avoided tariffs under the exemption. However, analysts warn that the consumers may face higher retail prices, while small sellers of the platform, such as eBay and Etsy, could struggle to remain competitive under the new trade rules. Now, Canada's economy has recorded its sharpest decline in nearly 2 years as trade tensions with the United States cut into exports and weakened business investments. Official data from Statistics Canada show that the gross domestic product contracted at an annualized rate of 1.6% in the second quarter of 2025, marking the steepest drop since the COVID-19 pandemic era. The contraction is being directly linked to reduced demand for Canadian goods in the United States, the nation's largest trading partner, as tariff disputes disrupted cross-border commerce, and businesses have also scaled back investment plans, citing uncertainty in the trade environment and increased costs of doing business. Economists warn that the continued weakness in export and investment could extend the downturn if no resolution is reached soon. The figure underscored the economic strain of ongoing trade hostilities, raising pressure on policymakers to find solutions that stabilize growth and protect jobs. Now, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum met with FIFA President Gianni Infantino on Thursday to review preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, which Mexico is set to co-host alongside the United States and Canada. Now, the high-level meeting focused on infrastructure, logistics, and coordination efforts ahead of the global tournament. Sheinbaum shared the update on social media, posting photos with Infantino and the official World Cup trophy. Quote, "I appreciate the visit of Gianni Infantino, FIFA president, to discuss the progress of the World Cup," end quote, highlighting the importance of the event for Mexico's global sport and profile. The president also confirmed that the opening ceremony of the tournament will be held at the iconic Azteca Stadium in Mexico City on June 11, 2026. The stadium, which previously hosted World Cup openers in 1970 and 1986, will make the history as the first venue to host 3 World Cup inaugurations, according to reports. Now, still in sports, Newcastle United will open the door for Alexander Isak's potential departure, with Liverpool cycling ahead of a record-breaking bid. This development comes as the Magpies near the signing of Stuttgart striker Nick Woltemade, a deal that could surpass their previous club record transfer. Woltemade is expected to arrive on Tennessee tonight to undergo a medical ahead of a move worth £64.86 million, an equivalent of $75 million, plus the £4.3 million in adds-on. The total package, just over £69 million, would eclipse the £63 million Newcastle paid for Isaacs in the 2022, according to reports. On Friday, the German forward's imminent arrival increases the likelihood of Isak joining Liverpool, who are preparing for a British record offer for the Swedish international with fewer than 4 days left in the transfer window. Newcastle's readiness to negotiate signals a major shake-up in their attacking lineup. Now, that's a wrap on the news, but before we go, here is a recap of today's top stories. The federal government endorses a new medium-term national development plan covering 2026 to 2030 to be launched in December 2025. And we did told you that the Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL, Bayo Ojulari, has said that restoring Nigeria's refineries has proven difficult due to decades of neglect. South Africa establishes a G20 task force to address global wealth inequality, marking the first such initiative under the group. And Germany's unemployment has climbed above 3 million for the first time in a decade, reflecting the country's persistent economic struggles. And in the world of sports, we did told you that Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum meets FIFA's Gianni Infantino to review preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Many thanks for watching. Please do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at SouqnewsTV. I am Oye Priye Krumale. Good afternoon to you. Have a splendid weekend.